Hey, what's up, guys? How y'all doing today? Well, baby, if your name is Charlotte, baby, I want to say a thank you. Miss Charlotte slid into my DMs with a really sharp question. And baby, it cracked open something I've been side-eyeing for weeks now. Because while everybody's been distracted by the headline charges, we haven't stopped to ask, why wasn't Diddy charged with obstruction? And why wasn't he charged with those firearms? Okay, now let's not. Let's break this down, because this happened in different acts. 1, the phone that magically reappeared. Let's start with the basics. Diddy and his team didn't just misplace a phone. No. They straight up acted like it didn't exist. The prosecution asked for all devices, and this one just poof. Okay, now if you guys don't remember, they actually in that had some legal documents. Okay, but let's talk about the device one. Yes, that phone. The one that Diddy's team tried to pretend didn't exist even after federal agents raided his home. Not only did they hide the phone, they doubled down, went full courtroom cosplay, filing motions, stalling, and trying to cloak it under employee-client privilege. Now pause. What even is employee-client privilege? That's like trying to say your intern's iMessages are protected under the Constitution. It was so unserious that even a judge couldn't keep a straight face. Here's what Judge Aaron actually said in the June 9th ruling. The court finds that Diddy has not met his burden to establish attorney-client privilege over the contents of device 1. The arguments raised were not credible and appeared to be a strategic attempt to delay. Boom. Strategic delay, not an innocent mistake, not paperwork confusion, a stalled tactic. But let's be clear, the feds believe this phone contained obstruction evidence. The government made that plain in their filings. They even threatened to sink contempt or obstruction charges based on the delay. And Diddy's team fought all the way to appeal, trying to block it, and they lost. So what happened? Why didn't the obstruction charge show up in the final
and no longer
list?
has a voice who will pursue
If this were
justice
anyone else,
for her accusation.
they'd already be halfway through a sentence.
As of the taken against Diddy,
Not a brand rebrand.
no expansion of the investigation,
Even the court noted,
no isolation
did he
orders,
conspire with his
no
assistant
equipment
KK
access,
to shield the phone?
no suspension
This
of attorney
wasn't just
communication.
hiding a phone. This was hiding a crime. If you guys don't know, when your house gets raided, you have to turn over everything and anything. Did he refuse that? They literally counted that as obstruction of justice. The only thing more suspicious than the device itself is a silence around why the obstruction charge disappeared. Are they saving it for sentencing? Are there more charges coming? Or did someone decide that was a little too close to Pandora's box? Whatever the reason, that phone was the blueprint. It told on everybody, and the judge made it clear that they saw through the act. Now let's also talk about the witness tampering, or as Diddy's attorney likes to say, just helping out. Let's talk about the sudden urge Diddy had to play pro bono defense coordinator for half his former staff. Because the moment the feds came sniffing, what did he? He started reaching out to the very people who had accused him of harassment, abuse, and violence and decades of psychological torment. And what did he offer? Not an apology, not accountability. He offered to pay for their lawyer. And if you believe the messages from Drock, also help them out if they could anything financially. Now pause. Sit with that. You're facing a federal investigation, and instead of staying quiet and luring up, you're dialing people who've accused you of criminal behavior before they speak to the grand jury, offering to fit the bill for their legal defense. That's not generosity, you guys. To me, that's influencing. Chef Jordan said it loud. Diddy contacted her and offered legal help before she even met with the feds. She had the feds made her an appointment. They subpoenaed her for the grand jury. But before she even met, he was up in there. The same woman who said she was threatened and harassed and felt like her life was in danger. And guess what? Chef Jordan wasn't alone. There are multiple people behind the scenes and in documents and documentaries saying the exact same thing. He tried to get in early and get control. So let's connect the dots here, because this isn't just about Diddy being our micromanager. This is textbook witness tampering, even if he dressed it up in Louis Vuitton and called it support. Now, you and I both know this man doesn't pay invoices out of sentiment. I think, and I believe that he was paying for silence and he wanted to control the narrative. Now, here's the deeper game. When you offer to pay someone's lawyer, especially before they speak to the government, what you're really doing is planting a seed, letting them know you're still in control. That whatever you did to them, you still have the money, the reach, and the nerve to frame it as a favor. Let's not forget that nobody was supposed to know that the feds had contacted her. And they, a lawyer, she said she still has the email, said Mr. Calms knows you've been contacted, blah, blah, blah. He'd like to pay for your lawyer. And let's not forget, these weren't just disgruntled employees. These were people who reported being assaulted, imprisoned, stalked, and degraded. Some of them had audio, photos, and witnesses, and he still reached out like it was nothing. This is not just tampering, that's emotional extortion, in my opinion, dressed up in legal paperwork. And I think the prosecution knows this. It seems like they referenced it. It's buried in footnotes, it's in redacted filings, and it reeks a strategy. But so far, no formal witness tampering charge. So again, we have to ask, are they saving it for sentencing? Are they tying it to a bigger federal case later? Or are they worried that filing that charge opens up a Pandora's box of retaliatorial witness intimidation and industry exposure? Because to me, here's the truth. If they confirm tampering, they have to admit people were pressured, and maybe they still are. The fear, the silence, the long delays in coming forward. It all starts to make sense when you realize that witnesses weren't just afraid of legal consequence. They were afraid of Diddy's reach, financial, physical, and reputational. He didn't just intimidate people with threats. He intimidated them with favors. Baby, listen. So why didn't they charge it? What game are the feds playing? Here's the million-dollar question, and the one Charlotte sniffed out. If the feds knew Diddy hit a phone, which is evidence, if a judge ruled his arguments
and no
were
longer
not
has a
credible,
voice who will
and
pursue
witnesses said they
justice
were
for her
contacted
accusation.
before they could talk to investigators,
As of the taken against
why
Diddy,
didn't the DOJ
no
charge
expansion
him
of
with
the
obstruction
investigation,
or witness tampering?
no isolation
okay,
orders,
so let me break this
no
down.
equipment
There are three
access,
likely reasons,
no suspension
and
of
each
attorney
one says
communication.
this to something disturbing about how powerful men get handled by the system. And let's also not forget those firearms. You found AR-15s with magazines, or assault, right? Whatever it is. Semi-automatics with filed-off serial numbers. Diddy is rich enough, and the security company is well-connected. They don't need anything with numbers. Now, why isn't the government, or why didn't they push forward? Well, some people say it might be chess, not checkers, and the feds prioritize the slam dunk. When prosecutors built cases like this, especially high-profile ones, involving celebrities, trauma victims, and long timelines, they often go for what's easiest to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. The Mann Act violations easy to prove. Timeline, receipts, witnesses, obstruction, and tampering. Those get murky. Defense lawyers can spend them, confuse the jury, and drag it out. That's exactly what they did with the RICO charges and the SMEX trafficking charges. That is what happened. So what did the feds do? Did they lock in the clear charges to win a war quietly and deal with the rest during sentencing or future filings? Remember, this case isn't over. Diddy's not even close to sentencing, and we've already seen the DOJ reference these behaviors in court. They're just not formally labeled as charges yet. Now, this could be a strategic hole. Some people surmise that there might be more coming. Let's not forget that the Southern District of New York is known for RICO conspiracy and layered takedown. They built cases over years with silent filings, sealed indictments, and multiple waves of charges. Is entirely possible. And let me say this clearly, that obstruction and witness tampering are being saved for a second round. Why? Because once they charge that, they can compel testimony from insiders. They can subpoena people like KK. They can demand encrypted chat logs, and that might expose more crimes, more people, and more dirt. They don't just want Diddy in prison, they might want the entire structure dismantled, and the enablers, the bagmen, the cleanup crew. This isn't just about Diddy, if you look at it like that. This is about how many people helped him hide it. And get this, and this is one we have to look at. It could be fear of exposure. Charging obstruction might blow open the whole industry. Now here's the darkest possibility. Charging Diddy with witness tampering or obstruction might mean acknowledging the scale of the cover-up, and not just Diddy's. If they admit Diddy was interfering with witnesses, the next logical question is who else helped? Who pressured these witnesses to stay silent? And which companies turned a blind eye and why? That's not just a criminal case. That's a public record reckoning. And maybe, just maybe, the government wasn't ready to open that door. At least not yet. You guys, the evidence is sitting in plain sight. The judge saw it. The public saw it. Hell, We've been reading the redacted filings together for weeks, but still no obstruction charge, no tampering charge, no gun charge. Either the feds are saving it for something bigger, or the feds are scared of what charging it would truly reveal. Either way, you guys, this is something that's not going to go away. This is something that is not going to go away. I do want to leave you with something delicious to consider. Let's just say the base level of this offense, put him at hypothetically, I don't know, 10. That's 5 years for each crime. The judge can add enhancements for obstruction of justice, abuse of power, leadership role in a criminal scheme, not RICO, but criminal scheme and more. They could be saying you want to hide phones. That's 2 points. You want to intimidate your former chef. That's another 2 points. Create a culture of silence, where people fear testifying. We're stacking the deck, baby. Suddenly your 10 to 12-year bid looks a lot more like 20 years. No parole, no reduction, no house arrest. And let's not forget the vibe the judge already gave in his
Present, and no longer
ruling,
has a
where he
voice who
said
will
the
pursue
court
justice
finds
for
these
her
arguments to
accusation.
be part of a strategic effort
As of the taken against
to delay
Diddy,
and obscure
no
discovery.
expansion of the
Translation,
investigation,
you play
no
games with the
isolation
system,
orders,
and
no
the system
equipment
does not
access,
forget.
no
Okay,
suspension
again, you
of
guys,
attorney
so no,
communication.
the obstruction didn't vanish. Maybe it's just marinating, waiting to show up in the courtroom, not as a headline, but as the reason Diddy walks out of that sentencing hearing with 2 decades and no sympathy. I don't know, y'all. Listen, it's a lot to think about, but we need to start thinking about everything at this point. Let me know in the comments, because I am genuinely interested to hear, and I read everybody's comments. What do you think about no obstruction and no gun charges, when they clearly had everything they could? Are they saving it for sentencing? Or was it something more? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to you later.